Approximately. Call to order the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Vice President Curry.
Here.
Vice President Curry is present. Alder Evers.
Here.
Alder Evers is present. Alder Figueroa Cole.
Here.
Alder Figueroa Cole is present. Alder Foster.
Here.
Alder Foster is present. Alder Furman.
Present.
President Furman is present. Alder Halverson.
Present.
Alder Halverson is present. Alder Harrington McKinney.
Present.
Alder Harrington McKinney is present. Alder Heck.
Here.
Alder Heck is present. Alder Mayodzi. Alder Mayodzi is present. Alder Paulson.
Present.
Alder Paulson is present. Alder Fair.
Here.
Alder Fair is present. Alder Tischler.
Here.
Alder Tischler is present. Alder Revere.
Here.
Alder Revere is present. Alder Vidavere is excused. Alder Wahalia.
Here.
Alder Wahalia is here. Alder Abbas.
Present.
Alder Abbas is here. Alder Benford is excused. Alder Bennett is excused. Alder Carter. Alder Carter is not here. Alder Conklin.
President.
Alder Conklin is present. Madam Mayor, we have quorum.
Thank you. And would you please read the meeting instructions?
Welcome to our hybrid meeting. Those of you in the room, do not join the meeting virtually. Those of you appearing virtually, if you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members attending virtually, if you are able, please activate your video for purposes of quorum and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Alders, if you wish to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote, please push the person button on your microphone or raise your hand virtually. Those in the room will have their microphone turned on when they are recognized to speak. Those attending virtually can unmute themselves when recognized. When you are finished, all should mute themselves. Members of the public who have registered to speak. Those appearing virtually, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. If you are here in person, when you are called to speak, approach one of the two podiums on either side of the dais and you will be recognized. For all registrants, the clerk will tell you when your time is up. After all public speakers, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the council, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Thank you. Madam Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'll just start once more by reminding us that we are here to do the business of the city, and we'd asked everyone to please refrain from using profanity, whether you're a member of the body, staff, or anyone who's joining us from the public. And I'd also ask that we all just show each other a little bit of grace. We're still getting used to the hybrid meeting format, and for some folks, it's their first time in the chambers using the new technology. So there may be some bumps along the road, but I think we did fairly well last meeting. I expect we'll do fairly well this meeting as well, and I will try and talk us through our procedures as we go, just so everybody knows what's going on, because we're still adjusting to the new format. So our first item of business, and can we please note that Alder Carter has joined us. Our first item of business is honoring resolutions. Item 1, which is Legistar 72657, celebrating July 2022 as Disability Pride Month. And to read the resolution, I'll turn it over to Alder Harrington McKinney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my honor to read the resolution celebrating July 2022 as Disability Pride Month. Whereas Disability Pride Month has occurred in July each year since 1990, when the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, the landmark legislation that excuse me. Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Let me go back. Whereas Disability Pride Month has occurred in July each year since 1990, when the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, the landmark legislation that prohibited discrimination against disabilities, was passed. And whereas Disability Pride is celebrated throughout the month of July to recognize people with disabilities and the many ways disabled people contribute to our communities. And whereas Disability Pride Month has its own flag created by Anne Meagle, a woman with disability, each of its symbols holds a different significance for the disability community. The black, and you have to excuse me because my vision is not good. The black field represents people with disabilities who have lost their lives to illness, negligence, suicide, and other causes. The colors, slightly different types of disabilities: red for physical, yellow for cognitive and intellectual, white for invisible and undiagnosed, blue for mental, and green for sensory perception disabilities. And whereas Disability Pride recognizes disability as a natural part of the human experience and highlights that all body, minds have access, needs, and value. And whereas Disability Pride recognizes the need for continued work to create equitable and inclusive environments for all, including people with various disabilities. And whereas Disability Pride Month encourages us to celebrate the talents and contributions of disabled people while reaffirming our commitment to contribute to create systems and structures that work for all. And whereas Disability Pride reminds us that representation and celebration of diverse differences is necessary in fostering a more inclusive world. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Madison Mayor and Common Council recognize and celebrate July 2022 as Disability Pride Month. Madam Mayor, that concludes the reading. I stumbled because I had cataract surgery, and so my vision is not as good as it should be. But I want to recognize those who will be accepting this award and how important it is when we look at differently disabled, and we have an excellent representative from the city that will be accepting this resolution on behalf of Disability Pride Month.
Thank you, Alder, very much for the reading of the resolution. We'll take that as moved by Alder Harrington McKinney. Is there a second? Seconded by President Furman. And I'll pause here to remind us that when we have motions and seconds from the floor in the room, myself or the clerk will try and repeat them so that those online know what was happening. So it is moved and seconded, and indeed, as the Alder said, we have Rebecca Hoyt and Will Ringland here with us to accept the proclamation. Rebecca and Will, would either one of you like to turn on your cameras on the Zoom and accept the proclamation, say a few words?
Good evening, folks. So I'm Will Ringland, the chairperson of the Disability Rights Commission, and I'm very pleased to accept this resolution on behalf of the disability community. I was 8 years old when the ADA was signed in 1980. So I've had a very different experience, I think, as a cisgendered white man who was born into his disability rather than one who had acquired it, considering all of the work and the effort that folks put into that resulted in the signing of the ADA in 1990. I think of folks like Ed Roberts in Berkeley in the 60s, who was in an iron lung and managed to teach himself to breathe so that he could go protest the lack of curb cuts and accessibility in Berkeley University. So it's people like him who did a lot of the work to make it significantly more easy for me to exist in the world, and I appreciate them. And I appreciate Madison for taking the time to resolve and recognize things like disability awareness and celebrate that in July. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Thank you so much. My name's Rebecca Hoyt, and my pronouns are she, hers. And if anyone's joining us tonight who has a visual impairment, I'll give a short description. I am a white woman with long, curly brown and silver hair. I am sitting in my home office. I have green eyes, and I wear glasses with rose-colored tinted lenses, and I'm wearing a black sweater. I want to share that as a disabled person, a parent advocate, and the city's disability rights and services specialist, I am so moved and honored to receive this resolution on behalf of Madison's disability community. As we celebrate Disability Pride Month, we express our gratitude to the many disability rights advocates and activists who move the nation towards access in their bold and unapologetic pursuit of the passage of the ADA. We embrace the history of disability activism in our country, including the Section 504 sit-ins, which were the longest nonviolent occupation of a government building in United States history, as well as events like the Capitol Crawl in Washington, D.C. We celebrate solidarity in our identities as disabled people, acknowledging their beauty and complexity. And it's in our pride that we look to the future. There is much work to do to ensure that people with disabilities have meaningful access to inclusive and equitable employment, transportation, healthcare, housing, and the right to be the authors of our own stories. Disability Pride Month is the time to recommit ourselves to the principles of disability justice and become renewed in our efforts to carry forward a movement that embraces the diversity of our lived experiences. We, the disability community, are grateful to the mayor, Alder Harrington McKinney, and thank you for reading through the resolution. I appreciate you, and many good things take time, so thank you very much. And the Common Council for its important resolution and allyship and your commitment to a Madison that is inclusive, innovative, and thriving for all. May we continue to work collectively, intentionally, and boldly on behalf of Madison's disability community all year long. Thank you, and happy Disability Pride.
Thank you, Will and Rebecca. It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor of item 1? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 1. And those are our honoring resolutions for today. Thank you again, Alder Harrington McKinney, for reading, and Will and Rebecca for joining us. Are there any disclosures or recusals on any items on tonight's agenda from anyone on the council? Seeing no hands raised, we have no disclosures or recusals. That will take us to the presentation of the consent agenda. President Furman.
Thank you, Mayor. A consent agenda is moved with the recommended action listed for each item on the agenda, including public hearings, except 1, items which have registrants wishing to speak, 2, items which alders have separated out for discussion/debate purposes. The following items are extra majority items. Extra majority vote items will be recorded as unanimous votes unless a roll call or exclusion is requested. Agenda item 21, Legislative File 72125, amending the water capital budget for Well 14 mitigation project, 15 votes required. Agenda items with recommendations made from the floor. Agenda item 20, Legislative File 72006, ordinance amendments related to transit positions. Transportation Policy and Planning Board recommended action adopt. Re-referral with no public comment unless allowed by a vote of the Common Council pursuant to MGO 2.29 sub 5. Agenda item 31, Legislative File 68608, prohibit commercial selling of cats or dogs for the purpose of experimentation. This item has been referred. Future meetings, the public will have an opportunity to provide comment at are the Board of Health for Madison and Dane County on August 3rd and the Common Council on September 6th. Agenda item 32, Legislative File 72126, prohibit the use of tear gas, mace, impact projectile devices, or other chemical agents for the purpose of crowd control. This item has been referred. Future meetings, the public will have an opportunity to provide public comment at or the Public Safety Review Committee on August 10th and the Common Council on September 16th. Items excluded by either the request of alders or due to speakers registered as of 6:45 p.m. today. Agenda item 4, Legislative File 72356, assessments for the Atwood Avenue Assessment District. Agenda item 5, Legislative File 72188, zoning for 3401 East Washington Avenue. And then agenda item 15, Legislative File 72116, emergency contract with Physical Assistance, Inc. to supplement resources that support participants of the city's Unsheltered Response Initiative programs. All 3 of those items had speakers that were registered on them.
Thank you, President Furman. Are there any other items that alders would like to have excluded from the consent agenda at this time? Seeing none, let me just run through that again so that all of us and those in the public are oriented to where we are. So probably a explanation of the consent agenda just quickly. The items that we're reading now are the items that we'll actually be taking up tonight. Every other item on the agenda will be moved in one joint motion. So if you are here on an item that we have not talked about, after the consent agenda passes, you will know that your item has passed and you may leave if you wish. Of course, everyone is welcome to stay with us as long as we're here, if you'd like. So just to run through that again, additional recommendation on item 20 is to adopt. We are going to re-refer items 31 and 32. We will not be taking them up tonight, and that means that unless somebody makes a motion otherwise, we will not be taking public comment on those items tonight. But the public will have multiple opportunities to comment on those items at future committee meetings, and then, of course, back at council when they come back to us. The items that we are excluding are items 4, 5, and 15. All right. Alder Figueroa Cole?
Mayor, can I please be marked as abstain for item number 16, 72155?
Alder Figueroa Cole will be marked as abstaining on item 16.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Are there other disclosures, recusals, abstentions? If not, President Furman, a motion?
Move adoption of the consent agenda.
It's moved and seconded by President Furman and Vice President Curry. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor of the consent agenda? Seeing no objection, the consent agenda is adopted. And we'll go on to public comment. For those of you who haven't been with us in a while, we've rearranged our agenda so we take all public comment at the top of the meeting. And so tonight we have public comment on, starting with item number 4, which is approving plan specifications and a schedule of assessments for the Atwood Avenue Assessment District. Our first registrant is David Dexheimer of District 15, representing the Park East Condominium Association, to be followed by Janet Preifer, to be followed by Linda Seemeyer. And you can come to either one of, either side of the podium to either of the microphones. David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. So good evening. I am David Dexheimer of 3502 Dennett Drive in Madison and president of the Park East Condominium Association. My family's resided there since 2019 in the fall. Earlier today, you all received a packet in your email about some of our concerns. At the outset, let me say that our association is in favor of some very badly needed reconstruction on the project. However, there are still very small, very isolated issues particular to our building and the setting that we're in. I have corresponded with the project engineer, and those emails were included in your packet. I would ask that those emails be preserved as part of the permanent record. The issues of concern that we're talking about are very, very unique just to the area around our building. So let me explain. The condo was constructed in 2008, and the developer received a setback from, or rather an encroachment from the city, which we still pay for every year. But so as it exists, the building is very close to the existing sidewalk. There's about 11 or 12 inches between the building and the current sidewalk. The sidewalk itself is 5 feet wide, then there's 5 feet of grassy terrace, and then there's 4 lanes of very, very busy Atwood Avenue traffic. The reconstruction will have it so that there is a 10-foot wide shared use paved bike pedestrian path, then approximately 5 feet of grassy terrace, and then 3 lanes of construction. When I asked the engineer if there would be more leeway for a setback, he said, well, it may be more, it may be less, it may be about the same, so we don't know. But literally right now, we have 3 of our units that have egress right out to the sidewalk, and it is a small step from the property onto the sidewalk. Currently, we do have bikes and pedestrians, and there's a lot of congestion there. It's very, very compact as it is. So what we're asking for, and I understand that it's really late in the process, and I understand that we're talking about 15 feet of real estate, and I understand that there are competing needs. We need signage, we need lights, we need trees, we need places to put the snow in the winter. But what we're asking for is whatever relief can be given between our building and this new bike path. Ideally, and again, late in the process, ideally, the bike path would move off of the shared use sidewalk and become a bike path on the road. At a minimum, I would ask that some of that land that's granted to the terrace, some of the land that's granted to the proposed bike path be given to a bigger buffer between us and the building. This is going to, with a bike path there, we know that speeds of bikes are going to increase. We know that volume is going to increase. And I thank you for your time. Take a look at the packet. If you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you. Our next registrant is Janet Pryfer of District 15, to be followed by Linda Seemeyer.
Thank you. My issues follow with the ADA proclamation tonight. As David's explained how narrow this strip of pavement is going to be, and I'm very concerned about people with mobility issues, people in wheelchairs using other assisted devices, or people pushing strollers and having a number of children they're trying to conduct through this area with bikes going by. So I think if we can get the extension moved out a bit, or else the bikes on the street, it would be safer for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next registrant is Linda Seemeyer of District 15.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Linda Seemeyer. I also live at 3502 Dennett Drive in Madison, and I'm here also to speak about in opposition to this very little portion of the Atwood Drive reconstruction project. I'm concerned also about how little space there is between this new bike path and our building. Atwood Avenue is used not only by a lot of bicycle riders, but also by runners, moms and dads, with strollers and folks who walk their dogs. The average age in our building is 60 plus. I think the age demographic at the apartment complex next to ours is in the same range. I'm a dog walker. In the evening after dark, Atwood Avenue is really the only safe place for me to walk my dog. The side streets there are not well lit. We've had a couple of instances of crime. I think about 2 weeks ago, we had an armed robbery that occurred about a block and a half away from us. So it's important for us to have a safe pedestrian walkway in Atwood where it is well lit and where there's some traffic. We've been told that the city believes that bicycles and walkers can coexist, and I'm here to agree wholeheartedly. I think they can too, as long as there's enough room for the walkers to kind of get out of the way. My dog and I frequently encounter bicycles on the sidewalk in front of Old Brick, and many times they're very courteous and they move aside to allow safe passage, but I've got to tell you, more often than not, it's Molly and I that are scrambling to get on the grass so that bikers can pass. There's really no place to scramble to in this new plan, and that concerns me. I'm very worried that someone eventually is going to get hurt. I hope not severely, but I think we need to look at that. We note that the plan for the shared use path across the street from us calls for a designated pedestrian lane. We don't have that on our side of the street, where I think we really need it. We wonder why that wasn't included on our side of the street. And we speculate that there simply wasn't enough room for it. And if that's the case, we all ought to pause and think about this. In the interest of safety for both bikers and walkers, we're asking that you reconsider the plan for a shared use path in front of our building. If that's not possible, please consider moving the path farther away from our building and including a designated pedestrian lane. Making Madison a bicycle-friendly community is a laudable goal that I think we all share, but not if the result makes our community unfriendly to runners and walkers. Anything you could do to modify this plan to add a little extra safety for everybody would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration. I really appreciate both. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so that registrants on item 4. Are there questions for any of the registrants? Alder Abbas.
Thank you so much. Can we please bring David Dexheimer back on the floor?
David?
Yeah, Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Syed.
Yes, yes. So I'm just curious about, you provided your feedback about the setback. When did you get in touch with the city staff, and when did you heard about this project? Could you explain the timeline?
So like I said, our family moved into the building late 18, 19? The project had been planned, it goes back quite a ways, and I don't know the exact date, but it predates our presence there. So me personally, I wasn't aware of it when we moved into the building. Originally, as it had gone through the design process, and all those meetings, I think, are outlined in what the engineering department included on the agenda today. There were a series of meetings, and the planning process went on, but funding was the issue. So even when we did move in, it wasn't a case where this is a project that has funding that is going to happen. Planning had occurred, certainly, but we didn't know that it was imminent. In one of my emails, I know it was lengthy, so I don't expect everybody to have read it, but I apologize to the engineer for missing the one that was in March of this year, and that was my mistake. That's on me, that I didn't realize it would be open to that sort of an issue. So it was shortly after that I first contacted Andrew Zweig, I believe is how you pronounce his name, via email, and we exchanged emails back and forth. Probably 3 or 4 of them. And he was great at explaining the whys and the wherefores about what the plan included, but it didn't sound like there was much wiggle room for what we were asking at that point. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is a very unique situation with our building. There is no other building that has these same conditions along in the entire plan area. Everything else has a setback. We have 0 virtually, and as the way the plan sits right now, we will have virtually no buffer between us and the bike path.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Are there any other questions for David while he's up here? All right, seeing none, thank you.
No, and good to see you too, Mayor.
Likewise, Dex. Any other questions for any of the other registrants? Seeing none, thank you to all of our registrants, and we'll go on to public comment for item 5, which is creating sections of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property at 3401 East Washington Ave. Our first registrant is Megan Walea of District 2, representing the Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corporation, to be followed by Jacob Doherty, to be followed by Maggie Freespirit. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. It's nice to see some of you in person for the first time. I'm Megan Walela, Development Project Manager at Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corp. And this project would bring 245 affordable apartments to Madison's east side. Next slide, please. WHPC is a nonprofit organization based here downtown Madison. We own 8,500 apartments throughout the state in 57 of Wisconsin's 72 counties. You might know Cap Center Senior Apartments downtown, or Kestrel on University Avenue in Middleton, which is half of the bottom photo. We're long-term owners, and we care about investing in materials that last. Next slide, please. You might remember the bread aromas that wafted from this site when it was an active bakery, but this 6.5-acre site has been vacant since 2019, which is especially unfortunate because it's along the future bus rapid transit line, which I'll show a map of in a moment. Next slide, please. The 245 affordable apartments this development will bring to Hawthorne neighborhood are split between 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. And this is a mixed-use development with about 4,400 square feet of commercial space along East Washington Avenue. And we're pleased to be able to preserve 1.5 acres of the site for park space. We'll have a variety of amenities for residents, plus soundproofing given its proximity to the airport and traffic along East Wash. Next slide, please. The site is close to many great Madison organizations like Access Community Health Clinic, Madison College, East Madison Community Center, all north of the site. And then I just wanted to point out number 5 on this diagram is the Future Go grocery store that the city has supported that I understand will be opening maybe later this year. Next slide, please. So this site is located along the BRT Red Line and will help promote the city's sustainability goals. Next slide, please. That orange dashed shape is the outline of our site. So residents of this development would be able to board the BRT at the right Fair Oaks stop. Next slide, please. Many people have given their time and ideas to help us plan and design this. In addition to the meetings that we've held with nearby businesses and organizations, we've facilitated several well-attended neighborhood meetings with support from Alder Abbas and city staff, as well as coffee meetups with neighbors. Next slide, please. These outreach efforts have helped us arrive at the site plan you're now seeing in 3D, hovering above the intersection of East Wash and North Fair Oaks. You can see 4 buildings of 2 to 5 stories in the park space behind that small V-shaped building in between the site and Hawthorne Elementary. Next slide, please. I'll wrap it up by leaving you with a rendering of the 5-story building and the 2-story townhomes from the view of the future BRT stop. Overall, WHPC is really excited to bring 245 affordable apartments to Madison's east side. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next registrant is Jacob Doherty of District 12, to be followed by Maggie Freespirit. Do we have Jacob?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Jacob Doherty. I live on Fair Oaks, North Fair Oaks Avenue, about a block away from the proposed site. I've attended the neighborhood meetings with my partner that Megan was referring to, and I am in full support of this proposal. I do believe that it's necessary to create more affordable housing in the city of Madison, especially in this part of the city. I think that as we've seen many more developments come up closer to the Capitol along East Washington, those developments are great, but they are not accessible to a lot of people who are, making a working wage. And so I think that this development proposal offers an opportunity for more people to live in this neighborhood. And I'm excited about the idea of the development as it's proposed. I also think it's really important to replace outdated and blighted buildings with new development as the opportunities come up. And I see this as a great use of that land. I think it's a great location for the type of proposal that they're offering. And I have no opposition to it whatsoever. So I just wanted to register in support of this proposal as someone who lives very close to the proposed development.
Thank you. Our next registrant is Maggie Freespirit of District 12.
Good evening. Maggie Freespirit. I live on Coolidge Street in the Eakin Park neighborhood, and I'm registering in full support of this project. I've attended some of the meetings that the developers put on. They seem very responsive. I'm impressed with the thoughtfulness that they put into the project, even with the space between their buildings and the elementary school, the bike parking, the natural area that they have. And I think it is really important to have more affordable housing in Madison. And like Jacob was saying, we have all the new housing that's closer to the Capitol that is unaffordable for a lot of people. We should have affordable housing in the same area. I mean, this is so much better to have this project here where you have easy access to grocery stores. You have community pharmacy that's close. Madison College, Truax, and Commercial Avenue are close. Entertainment's close. The bus line is there. Easy access to the interstate. Having a project like this where people are actually surrounded by the city rather than putting it out on the fringes of the city, like, the east side close to McFarland where people are more isolated. I think this is a great idea. And like I said, I've been really impressed with the developers' responsiveness and what they've done with the project. So I'm definitely in full support of it. I've lived in this neighborhood for the last 30 years on and off. And I would love to see more and more affordable housing coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the registrants wishing to speak on item 5. Are there questions for any of the registrants on item 5? Seeing none, thank you all for joining us. And we'll go on to public comment on item 15, which is authorizing a sole source emergency contract with Fiscal Assistance Incorporated to facilitate the provision of housing assistance related payment services using federal home funds to supplement resources that support participants of the city's unsheltered response initiatives programs. We have one registrant wishing to speak, Jonathan Bedford of District 17. Do we have Jonathan?
Looks like he is not with us virtually.
Do we have Jonathan in person? Looks like he is not here in person either. So that is all of our public comment. I'll just note again that on items 31 and 32 were referred without a motion for public comment. They folks who are interested in that will have ample opportunities at committees and then back at council to comment on those items. So that takes us to item 4. Item 4 is Legistar 72356, approving plan specifications and a schedule of assessments for Atwood Avenue Assessment District. President Furman, let's start with a motion, please.
Move adoption.
Moved by President Furman, seconded by Vice President Curie. Let's start with staff. I see we have our traffic engineer in the room, and we also have folks from city engineering on Zoom. Yang, would you like to orient us to the project first, please, or would you like engineering folks to do that?
I can give a quick description of the project, especially some of the, concern points from residents. But I will also ask, my colleagues from engineering to add anything that they want to add. So, we have been working on the project actually for quite a long time. And we worked through many iterations of the plan. In my view, we did a really extensive public engagement with the community and the neighborhoods. So I think we got the most of the design issues resolved. Got the support from the neighborhood. I think right now in front of us is mainly some concerns about a segment of the shared use path that we're proposing to add. On the you can call it on the east side of the street. Mostly from at the east end, the southeast end of the project. So that's from Walter Street to Cottage Grove Road. Initially, our plan is to have the path on the other side of the road, which is the lakeside. So that we believe that's a much better location for it, with parkland and much less driveways. However, we were not able to get City of Monona on board because part of those right of way is in City of Monona. So the next best choice will be on the city side, which is the east side of the road. For most part, I think things going to work really well, but we do have the concerns from the residents from those, I think, two kind of high-density residential buildings. One the condo, as we heard from residents. Another one is the nearby apartments. So those are some of the, I think, outstanding issues. And definitely will be happy, to work more on that. Actually, we, offline, have already been discussing with my colleague at city engineering, such as Christy Bachman, and also Renee Calloway with traffic engineering, and also discussing with other Foster on some potential improvements we can make to make it work out better for the residents in those two apartments. Unfortunately, tonight the project manager, is on vacation, but hopefully, we can find a solution tonight. So that's all I want to say. I'm wondering if whether my colleagues whether have anything to add.
Thank you. Yes, we have Christy Bachman from City Engineering on the Zoom. Christy, if you want to turn your camera on and unmute yourself, you can go right ahead.
Can I share my screen?
I believe you should be able to. Ending with
You
a
should be
question
able
mark.
to, yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Are you able to see
We're seeing your email.
seeing my emails? All right, that gives me a hint of where to drag things.
Yes.
Seeing the building now?
Now we're seeing the building.
All right, awesome. So I'd like to actually thank the residents for reaching out and having us take a second look at this. And we agree 100% that there needs to be more of a buffer between where they're stepping out, of their properties and to where the shared use path will be. So here's the existing building. These are the two gates that lead back to their properties. The sidewalk will now be a 10-foot wide shared use path. And you can see here, there's maybe a foot or so between the sidewalk and that gate. And on this side, it's maybe a couple feet tops. And I reviewed this with Yang and also Renee. And just to pull down the plan here so you get an idea. These two red lines are approximately 3 feet long. And I think that it is reasonable and that we should provide at least a 3-foot separation between the edge of the multi-use path with their gates so that they have an area to come out, and it'll also allow them to, look for oncoming bikes and pedestrians and just give a little bit more buffer. And just to let you know here, this dashed line is the existing sidewalk. So you can see that that existing sidewalk is quite close to these gates, especially on the southern side, I would call it. So again, here's the path, and I think it's, I'm glad they brought it to our attention, and I think it's a request that we need to follow up and move this path away from the gate and the buildings just to give a little bit more buffer. And again, we'll go for a 3-foot minimum.
All right. Thank you, Christy. Are there, Yang, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, since we're kind of starting to talk about solutions, I also want to mention that, we can do more on signing, as suggested by one of the speakers. Really bring more attention to all users, especially, when you have maybe when it's more crowded, so that, people can share a road better with each other. And I also want to point out, as one of the residents pointed out, that whether it's possible to move the path to as a on-road facility. We do have a crash data, tell us that, the off-road path probably going to be safer for bicyclists. So in the past 5 years, for this stretch of the road, we do have 3 crashes involving bicyclists, leading to 3 injuries. So we feel like, it's important to provide bicyclists off-road facility, for better safety. But in the meantime, we can do whatever we can to minimize the conflict points between pedestrians and bicyclists. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll do questions for staff next. Alder Abbas?
Thank you so much. Quick couple of questions. Thank you so much for providing some of the suggestions. So which way the door open? You know, the metal door, which way open? Outside, inside? Where the resident open the door? Which way?
The doors?
Yeah.
The gates, I'm not sure. I'm wondering whether Renee or Christy has the information on that.
I do not, but you could ask one of the property owners.
I don't see anybody here.
Yeah, they've left already. Renee, do you know?
I don't, but I'm assuming that they open into their property. They wouldn't open onto the sidewalk now.
Okay, that's good to know. Second question is through zoning standpoint. What is zoning setback? I'm just curious how this building came so close to sidewalk.
That might be a question for Ms. Stouter. Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor. This was approved several years back as a planned development, which is a unique zoning district for just this site. And at that time, it was approved with a really shallow setback as is built today. And so while this kind of setback would be allowable in some of the commercial and mixed use districts today, it isn't deep enough to really, it's not something we would see in most of our multifamily residential districts today. So it is a shallower setback than is typical.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So quick question, Renee, for you. Galway. So I heard there are some solutions you are already thinking around 3 feet setback minimum. I'm curious about maximum, where you guys think maximum you guys can go and how it impact the project.
Sure. So, we're already pretty tight in this area. Otherwise, it would have had a bigger one to start with. So I don't know if we can go a lot more than 3 feet. I know Christy has been taking a look and we feel like we can get to that. But obviously, we either have to narrow the terrace, narrow the path to get that wider. So I think, if we narrow the path, it gets harder for people to pass and can lead to more conflicts. And then the terrace, obviously, it's less comfortable closer to cars. There's nowhere for poles, signs, snow storage, that kind of thing. So I think, we're starting with such a tight place to start with that we can get it to 3 feet, but I'm not sure we could get it a lot further than that. But Christy, I don't know if you took a kind of a look at the drawings.
So I can go ahead.
I'd agree. We can get 3 feet, maybe inches more, but we're really narrowing then the terrace. And I think 3 feet is, double what they have now. And I think that's a nice amount of space to be able to approach.
So I can ask a question to Christy. So there is also 5 feet green area, right? We're still keeping 5 feet with the bike path, correct?
Approximately. It might be a little bit under 5.
Under 5. Is it possible to squeeze that green area?
Again, that buffer is important for snow storage, for trees, for signage, for the buffer between the automobiles and the pedestrians and the bikes. So we really don't want to squeeze on that area.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alder. Alder Halverson, questions for staff?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. We had seen this in the Board of Public Works, and I'm very happy that this is happening. This is much needed in this area. So this is really exciting. One thing that we did talk about in that meeting was with regards to coming out of the park, the 2 parking lots coming out of the park where the bike path crosses that exit, there's a white line where the cars would wait. My guess is that it's likely that cars will try to wait on the bike path. We talked about maybe doing some adjustments to that to allow room for at least one car between the bike path and the street. So I was curious if there was any movement on that.
So, Alder, I think what they've done is shifted the path to the other side of the street, not to the park side at this point.
No, the multi-path.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is the other part further down, and maybe you're referring to the part that's more kind of down towards.
Correct, by Albert Park, across from Albert Park, correct?
Yeah, and Christy, I don't know if I know that they were taking a look kind of at traffic volumes to see, if we could shift it over, if we thought there would be a lot of traffic that would be waiting to block the path. So I know that was being talked about, but I'm not sure if they felt like the traffic volume was high enough and that we wanted to kind of move over into the park more.
Yeah, I do not have an update. Unfortunately, both the project managers, Chris Pedikowski and Andy, are on vacations, but I can tell you for sure that they are following up with the design team on what those suggestions were made.
The only other question, one follow-up just on that, is that old baseball diamond, those fences going to be removed as part of this project? Where the bike path kind of weaves through the old baseball diamond?
That might be a question for parks. And
Otherwise, it'd be batting practice against the bikers coming through that area.
we do have Eric Knapp with us on the Zoom. Eric, do you know if there's plans for parks to remove the fences there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the exact location of the fences.
On the old baseball diamond?
Old Brick Park, yeah.
At Old Brick?
There's no plan imminent to remove any of the diamonds. Long term, the master plan calls for the expansion of the gardens to remove 2 fields, but nothing with this project removed the fencing, to my knowledge.
No further questions.
Right. Thank you, Alder. Are there any other questions on item 4? Seeing none, thank you to all of the staff. We have a motion to adopt. Is there discussion? Alder Abbas.
Yeah, we'll be really brief, really quick. I think it's a really tough situation here, and I really wish there could be a solution, and I totally trust what the staff is doing and the recommendation you guys are providing. I also acknowledge people with the big dogs taking a dog out. Only 3 feet difference with bicycle pedestrian could create some hazard situation. I will still encourage staff to see if the green space and in the design process, see if they can find 1 or 2 more feet. I know snowplow is a situation, but if we can find some way to give a couple of more feet, that will be perhaps resolve some of those issues. But I really appreciate participants as well as city staff. It's a difficult situation. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Carter, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have to echo what Alder Abbas said. This is a difficult situation, and I just hope that staff will continue to work their plan reconstruction to provide whatever relief they can for this building, the pedestrians, the cyclists, and the dog walkers. And as a dog walker, being that close to someone that is on a bike can be dicey. So I hope that they will use whatever they can to provide some relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. All of a sudden, I have more Alders in the queue. The moment I have 2, Alder Heck.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the folks that live right there for coming out and registering their opinion, because I think it sounds like staff has a handle on exactly what to do. They're going to be in an improved situation from what they're in today. And as someone who cycles most everywhere I go, I would back up staff's contention that they don't want to move the shared path too close to the street. So the wide terrace is appropriate not just for snow storage, but for safety of those using the path. I think staff has a great handle on what to do to give the neighbors some more room and protect the people on the path. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Miaze?
Yeah, and just to echo one more thing as far as, thinking strategically as far as having probably warning signs to make sure that people know about the whizzing bikes with, the electrical bikes that go whizzing by, just having some kind of different initiatives as far as warnings to the that people are coming out of that residence there. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Foster.
Thank you. Just wanted to take a real quick moment to really call out the work on this project from staff. This is started well before I was on council, and it's a really significant project. As someone mentioned, it was awaiting funds. Really good staff work as well. Getting that funding, bringing federal funds to be able to accomplish this project, and it's just really going to be an incredible amenity for the east side with just great walking, biking access on both sides of the street, really improved pedestrian crossings within Old Brick Park between the gardens and the lake. So just really couldn't be more pleased with all the creativity and the hard work that went into it, and happy to support what staff has shared tonight to slide it a little bit and give some extra clearance there. So just thanks again to staff, and really looking forward to this getting done next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. I have no other alders in the queue wishing to speak. It has been moved and seconded to adopt. Is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote in favor of adoption? Seeing no objection, we'll record that vote. And we will go on to item 5. President Furman?
Move adoption with conditions.
Moved and seconded to adopt item 5 with conditions. Item 5 is Legistar 72188, creating sections of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning at 3401 East Washington Avenue. We do have Director Stouter here with us. Are there any questions for staff on this item? Seeing none. It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on this item? Alder Abbas.
Yeah, I will briefly speak. I will just want to say thanks to my new constituents, Alder Foster's former constituents, and my new after redistricting. For their participation, we had a hybrid meeting, we had in-person meeting. I met with many of them over a phone call in person. I say thanks to WHPC for also doing the first hybrid meeting, organizing and helping city to reach broader audience. And we did a very robust community input process. I just want to make it very clear, with arrival of fighter jet planes, there are many things which is not in this council hand. We did our resolution in opposition, and I wish if I had power, I could stop it. But at the same time, if any project in City of Madison is moving forward, it need to be done in a way to protect public health and people well-being, and this project does that. It provides mitigation, and we in a closed session, Common Council Finance Committee closed session, we gave direction to work with developer on tax incremental district. They're also looking at CDBG funding, and both fundings provide clear direction of sound mitigation and improving not only the quality of building from noise mitigation standpoint, but also improving energy efficiency, indoor air quality, indoor comfort for the resident, and also provide great opportunity for BRT and housing connection with the future transit, as well as providing much needed green land for a school district. There is a overwhelmingly support by the surrounding neighbors and the neighborhood and the feedback we receive from the neighbor, and I really appreciate my constituent as well as city staff who also worked hard on this, and developer too. So thanks all. This will be a great project. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder. of no other alders in the queue wishing to speak on item 5, it's been moved and seconded to adopt with conditions. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 5. That takes us to item 15, which is Legistar 72116, authorizing a sole source emergency contract with Fiscal Assistance, Inc. to facilitate the provision of housing assistance-related payment services. President Furman?
Move adoption.
Moved by President Furman and seconded by Vice President Curie. Jim O'Keefe is here with us from Community Development. Are there any questions for staff on item 15? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to adopt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we'll record a unanimous vote in favor of item 15, and that brings us to the end of the items that were separated from the consent agenda. Are there any additional introductions from the floor? Or are there any announcements? If not, then Vice President Curie, it's your turn.
Do I need to use the mic?
There you go.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
It's moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any objection to recording unanimous vote in favor? Seeing no objection, we are adjourned.